Cello. It is Sunday, January 15th, 2023 at 2:40 a.m. I'm sitting here at my dining room table and I'm thinking about an experience that I had with my child back in, I want to say that was in June of 2021. I was at home and I got a call from my son Marquise, and he was like, "Mommy, they won't let me leave. They won't let me leave away from here." So I'm like, "Where the hell are you?" And he's like, "I'm down at the station, the train station downtown." And he's like, "I'm trying to get away from here, but they won't let me leave." So I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" So I get into a lift and I go down to the station and I'm looking for my son. I finally find him and he's standing by the exit door out of the back entrance of the station. So I asked him what's going on, and he's like, "It's some guys out here that are telling me that I'm not supposed to be here and I can't come down this way and all of this other stuff." So I'm like, "What the hell?" So we go outside. So I start asking everybody, like, "Do you have a problem with my son? Do you have a problem with my son?" Everybody saying no. Till I get to the front of the station entrance, and it was these two guys, and they was dressed in red, and they was Hispanic dudes. One was heavy set and one was short and like a little bit like lean, muscular. And so he starts telling me like, "Your son is down here and he dancing all weird and shit like that, and he's fucking up my money." And I'm like, "What does that have to do with my child minding his business?" "Well, he's causing too much attention and he's doing too much." And then my son said that he was rapping or whatever he was, rapping and, whatever. And the guy is like, "He just doing some weird shit. Like, he fucking up my money, like, this, that, and the third." And so I'm saying to him, like, that shit don't have nothing to do with what the fuck you talking about, you know, pretty much. Like, he could do whatever the hell he wants to do. He's a free person to do and go where he please. Like, he's grown, he could do what he want to do as long as he's not hurting or harming nobody. So the one dude says to me like, "Well, yeah, he was down at some place and they were saying that he was getting high or whatever." And I'm like, "My son doesn't get high. As far as I know, he smokes weed. So what are you talking about?" Like, when I moved into my place, I like don't know what the hell is going on outside of what I have going on. So, that it was like oblivious to me if my son was getting high. I know back in the day, my son was sipping on lean and shit like that, in his younger years or whatever, but I was not aware of the information that the guy was giving to me. So I'm like, "Yo, my son just smokes weed, like, you tripping." So he starts like trying to come at me, talk about, "Oh, you trying to draw attention to yourself." And as he's saying that, it's a cop walking up the street. And I'm like, "Man, I'm not thinking about that fucking cop. I fuck that cop. Like, I'm not doing nothing. I'm sitting here trying to figure out why the hell y'all are trying to control and dominate how my son chooses to move freely through this town." As I said, I'm not aware of none of the crazy ass shit that my son, if he was into anything, had going on. So, of course, as a mother, and then, yeah, he called him a mama's boy, like, "Oh, he called his mom and this, that, and the third." And I'm like, he doesn't have anybody else here that is going to defend him, you know what I mean? And if he had the notion to call me to tell me that he's in danger, I'm going to come. So, I don't know what the heck is going on, but you're not about to do anything to my son. So the heavyset dude, he lifts his shirt and he exposes that he had a gun on his side. And he like, "I'll shoot you right in front of your mother." I said, "You're going to do what?" Like, dude, you really, now you tweaking. You're going to sit here in front of me and say that you're going to shoot my son in front of me? No, that's not what you about to do down here. So the shorter of the two guys, he like pushes his buddy to the side and they walk off or whatever. And I'm telling my son, "Let's get the fuck out of here before we go away from in front of the train station, the guy Wayne, he mysteriously pops up out of nowhere. Now Wayne is a guy that I had met, and I was buying weed off of him at one time, and he just pops up out of the blue. Now, what I noticed is how like all of the people that are affiliated with whatever the hell they affiliated down there, they communicate and say, where so and such is at. So it was kind of awkward that he just popped up out of the blue. He wasn't saying nothing. He was just standing there listening and shit. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So eventually, before we walked off from the station, the two guys, no, Wayne had walked off, and then the other two guys, that's when they would he just this was after Wayne had walked off. That's when the guy had said that he would shoot my son in front of me and all of this other shit. And then the other guy that he was with, they walked off and went into another direction. So I'm telling my son, like, I don't feel too comfortable being down here. And we were right in front of the camera, in front of the train station. So I know that all of the shit was recorded. So that was that. We leave and then we eventually get to my home. And I don't know what the hell my son had did prior to that, but that was just some crazy ass shit that had transpired. Then another time, my son had called me and he was like, he needed a ride to get the hell from downtown. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? And as I'm talking to him, I noticed in the back of him, Wayne was like walking slowly behind him. So I'm like, what the hell? And then I hear another gentleman talking, but I didn't see who that gentleman was. So I'm trying to tell my son, like, well, go to a safe place or whatever, and then let me know what location you at so that I could send a lift to bring you to the house or wherever you need to go or whatever. And he just hung up the phone. Like, after, because the phone went down like this, and I hear the other gentleman talking to my son. I couldn't hear exactly what he was saying. And then my son gets back like I'm like you could see me now, and the dude Wayne was behind him, and I'm looking like, what the fuck is going on? So my son winds up getting from where he was at, and then eventually he shows up to my home. So I'm asking him like, dude, what the fuck is going on or whatever? And he said that Wayne and some other people were around at the park, um, and he had fell asleep in Wayne's truck because he said that he was tired or whatever, and he had a headache. So he went to go be in Wayne's truck, and he said he was woke up to hearing gunshots. So he said he looks up, and it was this silver car that was riding off, and it made a left turn, but all he could see was the tail lights or whatever. But he said as he like opened the door and get out the car, it was a guy in the street, and he was shot. So my son said that he had called the police and the ambulance and stuff to get him some help, to what I mean, because he said he had never seen nothing like that before in his life, and that he was trying to get the guy some help so that he wouldn't die in the street. So he said as he's talking to the dude and trying to keep him awake before the police get there, he said he started seeing the guy's spirit like trying to leave out of his body. And my son said he kept shaking him like, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, or whatever. And he said the police got there and they started questioning him about what had happened. And my son said he explained to the police what was going on, and what he witnessed, and everything that I just sat there and told you. Now I don't know what the fuck and what made that situation transpire or anything like that, but he said that he was shook. He didn't know what the hell to do. So he said that the police was like, get the fuck out of here, get the fuck out of here, and you're not giving any type of information. He was like, that's all that I know, that's all that I seen. So he says he walks around to where Wayne and the other guys was, down by around the corner. I guess they was at the park or wherever the heck they were. But he said that they started questioning him like, what did you say and this and that. And he was like, I just know that I was asleep in the truck, and the next thing I know, it was gunshots, and then the car sped off and it was a guy in the street with gunshot wound. So I'm like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? So I've always like told my son, like, those are not your friends. Those are not people that you need to be around. Like, if all of this kind of crazy ass shit going on, and if you're not into, what they're into, or, because they were trying to say, like, what did you tell him? Like grilling him to see, if he said something or whatever. Like, I don't even know the full story in detail about it. I just know that that was the story that my son had told to me. And he said that he was approached by a Hispanic gentleman that was a leader of some type of gang or whatever. And the guy told him, get the fuck away from here before somebody else comes or whatever. You got to get the fuck away from here. So my son hauls ass and he leaves and he comes to my house. And then that's when I got like the information or whatever. But when Wayne was walking up behind him and the other gentleman was talking on the side of my son, I guess they was following him to see like where he was going or who he was talking to or and communicating with or whatever. But he called me to tell me that he needed to get away from wherever he was because the dude had said that some other guys were going to show up and it wasn't going to be pretty if he was still on the scene when the guy showed up. So my son left and he went to some route he told me that he had walked to get to my house, and it was a long way from downtown where he was at. And he looked mortified when he got to my house, and I was scared and like panicking because like from the time he had hung up the phone, my concern as a parent is, are they chasing him? Are they going to harm my child because of something that he witnessed? Like, what the hell is going on for real? So when my son gets to my house, I told him to get into a bath and, relax his nerves and stuff like that because, like, that was some crazy ass tumultuous shit that had transpired. So I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm sitting there questioning. So I wind up falling asleep. Me and my oldest, we was laying on the couch. And no, it was me and Sanai. We were laying on the couch and it was early as hell in the morning, like a little bit after 2 in the morning. I hear talking and, walking around. So I open up my eyes and my son is sitting there talking and I don't know what he was saying, but it just was strange and off. So I'm like, what's up? What's going on? Like, and then the next thing I know, he just starts throwing up all over the place in my house. And I'm like, what the hell? But he had like this crazy ass look on his face. I can't even describe the shit, but I'm like, what is going on with my child? Like, why are you throwing up? So I get up. He was saying some old crazy ass shit, but then the next thing I know, he started saying like something about me dying and all of this, like talking crazy out of his head. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what the hell? And it just was an odd behavior that he was displaying to me that made me like it made me a little shook inside because I'd never seen my child like behaving that way. So he starts talking crazy out the side of his neck, and I'm like, yo, you're tweaking. Like, you can't be in here making all of this noise at this hour in the morning. I have neighbors and shit. He was saying more and more and more, and then the next thing I know, I go into my bedroom so that I could lay back down, and my son comes in there, and my window was open because it was in the summertime. So he starts like yelling out the window. And I'm like, yo, you is tweaking. Like, I have neighbors, and my neighbors have jobs that they have to get up and go out to early in the morning. Like, you can't do that here. Like, you're risking my house being taken, my home life being taken away from me because you're disturbing the peace at 2:30 to something to 3 in the morning. You're disturbing the peace, and then my neighbor downstairs was yelling out the door like, be quiet, like, what the hell, and all this other shit. And I'm telling my son like, yo, you're doing the absolute most. So it went on and on and on. Like, he stopped yelling out the window or whatever, but he just was making like mad disturbance. So eventually I told my son like, yo, you cannot be here. If you're going to be doing this, I don't mind you being here with us, but you can't be here doing what you're doing because this shit is not what's up. This is not what's up at all. So it was just like, it was a heartbreaking situation for me to have to tell my son like, yo, you got to go, you got to get out of here, I don't know what you're about to do. So he like, I got my own place, I can go there. And I was like, okay, you can go and do whatever you need to do in your own place, but you can't do that here. It wasn't that I was saying that he wasn't welcome at my house, but with that type of behavior, like, you can't come over here and disturb what's going on, because it's in my lease that if I have company and my company is causing disturbance, that it's automatic grounds for me to be evicted. And I worked too hard to get to where I was at. Like, I'm still moving forward. I'm still, healing and trying to get right, and restore my peace of mind, my stability, and everything that I didn't have previous to me coming over here to heal my family situation. But I told him he had to leave or whatever, and he had packed up all his stuff and he had gone. But then he was when I thought that he had gone, but then I hear him still outside, so I open up the door and he is laying out in front of my bed, my living room window. And I'm like, you cannot be sleeping out here. You can't do this. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you intentionally now? That's how I'm taking it. You're intentionally trying to draw attention for my neighbors to put in complaints, for me to be confronted by my landlord, for me to have to leave from out of here. He's fussing and fussing and fussing. I'm like, what the hell? I'm gonna have to do a part two because my video is about to stop. But it just was unnerving to me, the extent of what was transpiring right there in front of my face. And I'm like, yo, it is something going on more deeply than what the heck I know, because I wasn't there prior to him getting to my home. I just know the experience that is told to me or whatever, and I don't fucking know. And I believe that was in July that this happened, July or August or some shit like that of 2021. But it was just, it was something that I've never experienced before in my life. And the next thing I know,